I will call the April 6, 2016 Amery City Council meeting to order. Fran, would you take the roll call, please?
Certainly. Strobush?
Yes.
Freeman Schneider?
Here.
Myers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Vicker?
Yes.
And Van Blarkum?
Yes.
Thank you. Joe Verkant, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You have in your packets the minutes from the March 9th meeting. If you would care to read through those.
I move they be approved.
Will second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Upcoming events. Judy from the Amery Area Community Center.
Hi, everyone. I'm here representing the Amery Area Community Center, and I want to promote 3 of our upcoming events. Our first event is our Treasure Island Casino trip, which I told you about last month, but it's coming up on the 13th of April on Wednesday. The bus will leave the community center at 9:30 a.m. and will return at 4:30 p.m. The cost is $35 for members or $55 for non-members, with the additional $20 going to your membership fee for 2016. This trip needs 20 people to make it a go, so we're not quite there yet. So we are really, if you're interested, please sign up as soon as you can. Our second event is our annual rummage sale, which is being held at the Amery Area Community Center on Thursday, April 21st, from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and also on Friday, April 22nd, from 7:30 to 1 p.m. We have a lot of items for everyone to look at, and hopefully you'll find something that you just can't live without, and you'll want to take a few items home. Our third event is a reminder about our trip to see the Minnesota Twins play the Tampa Bay Rays at Target Field on Saturday, June 4th. We would like everyone to sign up by May 16th. The cost is $50 for members or $70 for non-members. There again, the difference of the $20 would go towards a 2016 membership. Here again, we need at least 20 people to sign up. The bus leaves the community center at 9:30 a.m. for a 1:10 p.m. game. They are excellent pavilion seats, and the bus will drop everyone off at the front desk, or front gate, I should say. So we also invite everyone to check out our Facebook page and our column in the Amery Free Press for any upcoming events. So I want to thank you for your time and have a wonderful evening.
Questions for Judy?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else with upcoming events? I would like to highlight Thursday evening at the high school from 5 to 7 is the Empty Bowls program. $10, you get a bowl of soup, or maybe several, and all the proceeds go to the backpack program, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, so check that out. And before we go any further, you've probably noticed we have an empty chair. Darcy's home recuperating from surgery, and we're going to try and muddle through without him. Darcy, we hope you're watching, and take care. Okay.
Miss Kay,
Moving on. Yes.
I just throw a plug out. I know the VFW is having a gun show at the ice arena this
okay.
weekend, so just for what it's worth, I saw the advertising in the paper. And
Thank you, Rick. I missed that. Anybody else on council? Okay, officers' reports. We're going to start with Fran, our clerk treasurer.
Sure. I've got a couple of things I want to report on this evening. The first one being yesterday's spring primary and local election. We had 815 voters in the city of Amery. Percentage-wise, that was a turnout of 46.4%, higher than the state projection of 40%, but still 1% lower than what the state actually did end up with, which is 47.35%. So I always want to take every chance I can to put a shout out to the poll workers that we have here in the city who work very long, hard hours to ensure the process Things went pretty good. I don't think we had anybody wait for too long, although we certainly did have lines for a time most of the morning. People were fairly good-natured about it, so all went well. The next thing I have to report on, as you may recall, a year ago, Cardinal Glass Manufacturing in Amery had filed an appeal with the Wisconsin Department of Revenue to have their manufacturing assessment lowered. At that time, that appeal was somewhat successful. They did receive a reduction, which of course resulted in a reduction in our tax base. They did file again this year an appeal with the Department of Revenue to reduce their manufacturing assessment. And I am very pleased to report that the Department of Revenue turned that down and granted them a 0 reduction.
Nice.
Which was certainly good news. Something we have coming up is the organizational meeting in April. So at an opportune time for everybody, we'll need to take a look at our calendars and get that set up. As well as that, there is a CD community development webinar series coming up over the lunch hours. We want to make sure that the AEDC, all the members of our City Council and Planning Commission know that they're welcome to attend that series. The city will provide lunch, so you do need to RSVP and set that up at City Hall so we have a good count for that. The first one is April 15th. They're all on a Friday over lunch hour. April, May, June, and July. For more details on that, please contact me at City Hall, and we will get you all set up. The only other thing I want to touch on is later on we're going to be talking about the development of the TIF district in our new industrial park. In case I neglect to mention it later, the timeline of that will require that we have a special city council meeting and also a special planning commission meeting. So that is another time we will be needing to take a look at our calendar. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Questions for Fran? Before we go on, thank you for
welcome.
all your hard work for yesterday,
Thank you.
because I know it was a long, long day.
18 hours, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
do we give you overtime?
No, but I might sneak out early on Friday. I did come in an hour late today.
Okay, good. Fire Chief Dale Kaler, report.
This is the tricky hand.
It is. Oh, I'm so glad you noticed.
Safety-minded. Good evening. I did forward the report for this month. Something to notice on the reports this month is that I try to break it up by township and some of the calls that we go to with the different townships. So this month's a little bit different. We have more activity in the town of Blackbrook, Lincoln, and Alden this month. So as you look at that report I submitted, you might notice that. Hours in training are still very high. We got a few people finishing up Firefighter 1 certification, and 2 people went on to Firefighter 2 certification. So these are big commitments. I appreciate it very much. The guys are doing a great job at the training this year. We're also going through a period of time where we have a lot of retraining of everybody. So I'll give you an example. DNR, we just did 2 nights with the DNR to recertify for wildland fire. That's like 30 guys for 6 hours, so it adds up quick. But they're all willing to do it, so I think I can make the comment we're probably better trained today than we have been for the last couple of years, so we're going in the right direction. Any questions on the run report before I go into some announcements? I wanted to thank everybody that came to our pancake breakfast. That was a great turnout. Appreciate it very much, all your support. The website is now open for burning permits. I wanted to mention that tonight. The burning permits can be completely filled out on the website. We are including the town of Blackbrook, Lincoln, and Alden in the burning permit program. So when you fill it out on the website, I am notified. And it's self-paced. You go through it. It identifies what you need to do to get the burning permit completed. It gives us all the guidelines and all the rules for the townships and the city. So far it's worked well. We had about half a dozen people use it so far. without a glitch, so that's always good when it's new, so. Fire department, is looking forward to grass fire season, so please remember that as the wind starts blowing, before it greens up, the grass fires are always something that are an emergency when not controlled. However, I wanted to mention to everybody, we have about 12 different controlled burns going on in the next 2 weeks. So if you see fire trucks at the fire already, you don't need to call it in. It is a controlled burn. That happened to us last year one time. The next thing was the empty bowls project. Did anybody mention that during the announcements? The fire department is participating in that this year, so if you want to go and bid on the fire department's silent auction item, it is a ride for 4 young people in the fire truck to probably lunch, because McDonald's is supplying the lunch for $100. And they can pick 3 friends or a mom and dad and a brother, but we have enough room for our friends, 4 of our friends in the fire truck. So that'll be going on silent auction tomorrow. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was something that the Explorers accomplished. I attended the North Star Council meeting, which is a Boy Scout thing. We're part of the North Star Council in the Twin Cities because of our geographic location. And we were called down there especially to accept an award. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. So we're post number 9146, and it reads, recognize Amery Fire Department post 9146 for their dedication to helping young people prepare for their futures. And it's a 30-year award. And more impressively, I wish I would have brought the program, but a bunch of the fire departments started back 30 years ago, but we're the only fire department left in Wisconsin that has a 30-year award going. There's nobody that has served the Explorers program longer as far as the fire department in Wisconsin. There's one in Twin Cities, but it's a great program. I want to put it out there because it's open to 14-year-olds or older. We now have 10 on our Explorer post, which seems like a lot, but we got a couple older ones that'll be rotating off. And it's a great feeder for our fire department. I asked everybody at the meeting the other night to stand up that they've ever been participating in this, and about 12 people stood up out of our 40 guys. So it is a big impact to our community, it's a big impact to the fire department, and it's a good way for young people to get involved, do volunteer hours and things like that. So I wanted to point that out. So 30 years is a long time. There's only 4 departments that are longer than us. So it's quite a recognition.
Very good.
Any questions before I retire?
Thank you, Dale. Police Chief, Tom Marson. We'll call the ambulance for Dale.
Anyway,
If you fall down, we're just gonna cap you, so.
watch out for that. Well, you know those fire chiefs. No, we won't go there. That'd take a whole hour or something. I could even invite him and I'd join in. Well, congratulations to Madam Mayor, Councilman Strobush and Vicar on your vigorous election there, you know.
What?
His ID card
You're done
expired,
now,
so I
you
don't
know.
think. Yeah, okay. Good evening, I present to the council the immediate reports for the month of March. Certainly if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Just a couple things this evening, although the weather doesn't seem like it. Next week is Wisconsin Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week. And the statewide drill is a great opportunity for schools, businesses, and families to test their emergency plans about what to do and where to go when severe weather strikes. As far as I know, our severe weather location for people that need shelter is still at Golden Age Manor. The tornado drill will take place even if the sky is cloudy, dark, or rainy on Thursday, April 14th. In the event that there is severe weather, it will be postponed to Friday, April 15th, with the mock watch occurring at 1 p.m. and our actual warning that we'll be testing the sirens will be at 1:45. Last month I brought up about the partnership between the police department, the Women's Club, and the Wisconsin Department of Justice and the Drug Take Back Day that's scheduled for Saturday, April 30th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the police department. I believe that Sharon has been putting posters around and she's been very helpful in that, behind that campaign there. So if you need some more details and things, you can certainly contact our police department.
That's all I have unless there's any other questions. Certainly.
Chief, I read in the Free Press today about the call-in at the Polk County Enforcement Center for a bomb threat, and they described the process that they go through. Does this building have a process to deal with calls like that?
We haven't, I guess I haven't read the article. You mean for evacuation purposes and things?
Just how to deal with a call of that nature?
Well, our call is going to be, we want to get as much information as possible from the caller itself, and then we want to contact our comm center and things like that, and then get people out for law enforcement can arrive.
No, I'm talking about this office, City Hall.
City Hall and
Maybe I should direct this to Fran. Do you have a plan in place?
We do have a plan in place for emergency evacuation at the time there's an election going on. At other given times, frankly, I'm not sure if we have a plan in place or not. I would need to touch base with Darcy about that, but I would think that we could use the same or a quite similar plan we have in place for the elections for any other time City Hall would need to be evacuated. And what that would do would go to the public library and the fire hall.
now I'm more enlightened.
I'm not, because Fran doesn't know for sure, so that probably means there isn't any. So it seems to me that this office
That is
needs
something
to have that in
that we
place.
need to work on, like we have with the schools that have certain locations that they disperse to as well.
All right.
Is there any intent to apply for the COPS grant coming up? That's the officer COPS grant?
We haven't given that a whole lot of thought, Tim, but it's certainly something that can be
It's
brought
kind of
up.
an arduous task, because, well, I'm aware of it. I was just wondering if that was something that was of interest or not, or.
Something that we can certainly look, we haven't, since our school resource position there a few years ago, we haven't looked for any supplement grants or things like that to increase our staff. Anything else?
Any other questions for Tom?
Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works, Bones McCarty.
Madam Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. As you probably noticed, the guys have been out flushing. The streets are all wet. So if you notice that your water's a little discolored in your home, or if something is not quite right with your water, it's probably because they're in that neighborhood flushing. If it looks a little milky or bubbly, just run your water a while. It should clear up. Let's see, we met last Monday with the DOT and members of Coopers, I mean. We got good positive feedback from the DOT. They're going to let us put our entrance and exit on State Highway 46.
For the
The exit also?
Also, nothing on, they don't want anything on Arlington, just like we don't. So that was some good information from them. We'll probably have to close off the two driveways that are there and then center one close to Oak Street. Would you live on Oak Street?
Correct.
Took some soil samples, everything looks good down there. They need to do some sampling in the water to let us know where we can put the boat landing in. Also, we had an inspection from the DNR out to the landfill on Monday also. Monday was a busy day. Because last week I let somebody bring some stuff in, and unfortunately the DNR showed up about the same time that these people put some sheetrock, painted plywood. We can only take brush and clean lumber at the landfill. So if you ask to get in and I open the gate for you, please try to stick to that. We're not even supposed to have any nails or anything like that, but as you know, we burn a lot of pallets and other stuff, and we try to keep the nails and the small pieces of metal cleaned out. Waterman has made some other arrangement with some of the people that are regular customers to the landfill, so those products will probably be going someplace else.
Unfortunately, I think it was the garbage that was in there that kind of set this off. We probably would have got an okay on the things that we've been putting in there, but with them, I think there was even some insulation in there with that stuff. But at any rate, he came back, gave us a thumbs up, and told us to keep an eye on it. I'll let Chance talk a little bit about what's going on up at North Park. They got started on that about a week ago. Got a few other things. I'll let you talk about cross connections and where we're at on that. Any questions on any of the other?
Bones.
Oh, and May 1st, the landfill or the dump will be open first and third weekend through the summer. Yes, sir.
Potholes.
Yeah, we got a lot of them. Do you need some?
No.
We can bring some right
I
over
would
to
really,
the neighborhood.
I would really like to get, well, I have one, pretty good one there,
You
but
are about 10th or 12th in line.
we gotta,
I've been getting a lot of requests.
Yeah.
But we are working on the
the two that I
potholes.
noticed mostly are the ones on the street that goes by McDonald's, because that also goes into the hospital, and that's really a bugger.
I know, actually, those were so bad that when the county was in town here about a month ago, I had them go in and do it.
Hot patch.
Yeah, hot patch.
Then-
I paid them for it rather than throw in that winter mix that we use, because that, depending upon the situation, sometimes you put that in there and expect it to be gone the next day, and it's there 2 years later, you know. But then next time you clean it out, pack it in real good, it's gone the next
Have you
day.
thought about sheet steel? No.
There you go. Cement.
Is that section of roadway, it's only about, what, a half block long or something, that's really
Yeah, I'll
bad?
probably.
Is that something that we
I'll
could slate for
probably do
like a
that this
mill and
year.
overlay or something? So,
Yeah, there's a few places.
Probably needs to be dug up and put better base down, maybe? No?
Yeah, probably there, probably just mill it and have them go right over the millings. Just use that 6 inches of millings for a new base. There was several places on the docket to get done this year, but I got a sneaking suspicion that I'll be shifting a lot of it because I've got some requests for George and Pondhurst and some other places, but I told them, look at them, evaluate them, and I'll probably do the worst. So next year, I know part of the finances here, if you can double up my street budget, we'll go for it. In talking to the DOT, they only had like $6 or $7 million to work with, and I said, I could probably use that.
All of it.
They didn't think I could have any of it, so. Other than that, any other questions? You wanna talk a little bit? Thank you.
Good evening, I apologize for my entire flushing season.
You didn't know you were going to be on camera? Is that
I
what?
didn't expect.
Oh, okay.
That's right. That's all right. As for the campground today, right now we're kind of waiting for dry up. We need, like I said, electricity can't go until April 15th, so we're kind of holding off for that. Other than that, everything's here. Everything's ready to go. We laid out the lots last week. Cleared some dead trees that were potential hazard. So, like I say, we're just waiting for a little dry, and hopefully electricity will be in, and then we can go. As for cross connection, we completed all commercial and high risk cross connections, and right now we're waiting for companies to get compliant with any incompliances they had with the DNR cross connection that Jerry Rugg from HydroCorp came up with. If you do have them taken care of, please contact us or HydroCorp so we can set up a re-inspection date, and we can get that resolved and move forward to the next regulation.
Questions for Chance?
thanks for the barrel.
What's that?
Thanks for the barrel. Oh, thanks for the barrel.
Thank you, Chance. Library Director, James Nealon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Got a few things going on at the library this month, but before I get into that, Our bad news is that our youth services librarian, Tricia Warenberg, is leaving. April 22nd is her last day. So we've advertised the position, and hopefully we can get somebody just as good. Before she goes, we're trying to wring some work out of her. So a couple of kids programs. She's running a family play group on the first 3 Thursdays in April before she goes. That's from 10:30 to 11. On Saturday, April 9th, she's doing a Jungle Book themed story time scavenger hunt. That's Saturday the 9th at 10:30. Just a couple of adult programs. We have Saturday, April 16th at 11, we have the St. Croix Festival Theater coming to do a very short version of the Grapes of Wrath play. This is in conjunction with the Big Read in the St. Croix Valley, this Grapes of Wrath this year. And then on Saturday, April 30th at 11, we have Nicholas Butler coming. He's an author that's from Eau Claire, but he's known nationally. His books have done pretty well across the country, so that should be a good program. And I think the library statistics are in the city packet, and we seem to be doing better than some of our peers, where our numbers are a little bit up over this time last year, which is good. A lot of libraries are seeing pretty good declines at this point, so we're holding our own, but I'm not sure why. So.
Because
hopefully it wasn't all because of Tricia. And now
No,
she's
because
leaving,
you're doing
so.
a really good job out there, that's why.
And that's all I have.
Okay, questions for James? Okay, thank you, James. Management Analyst, Megan Will.
Good evening, everybody. I have a couple of announcements and a few updates for you. First, we have officially received words that our city has been named a Tree City USA and a Bird City Wisconsin. Award ceremonies will happen later in the year. In the meantime, there will be a birding walk through York Park. It will be led by our very own Boost Along on Saturday, May 14th in York Park at 8:30 a.m. to mark International Migratory Bird Day. Everybody is invited to attend. My second announcement is that the Amery Business Directory and Visitor's Guide is finished. I would like to thank all of the Amery area businesses that generously contributed to this project, which promotes the best in our community. This is a great resource for both Amery residents and visitors to find services and activities. You can pick one up at a local business, the library, or City Hall. I have a website update as well. As our fire chief announced, you can now get a burning permit online at the city website. It's right on the home page. All you have to go to is the Submit a Request button. Click the Submit a Request button, sign in, and fill out the form. You can also find a form to submit an event to the city website on that page as well. Again, our city website is amerywi.gov or amerywisconsin.org. Next, the Walkability Committee is wrapping up this month. Their recommendations to City Council will be included in the Walkability Policy Alternatives Report, which will be finished sometime in June. There was also a meeting with the DOT to discuss pedestrian safety improvements on Keller Avenue. We will continue to gather information on their suggestions from other communities, and we will be discussing possible improvements with the committees and the public coming up in June. Lastly, if you recall, the city, in partnership with the Amery Economic Development Corporation, is working on a housing study. This study is to assess housing conditions in the city of Amery. It is focused on affordability, vacancy rates, and current and future housing needs in the community. Essential to the study is community input. So, in your second quarter utility bill, you will find a household survey that looks like this. It is under 20 questions long, and per Bones request, It is multiple choice and not fill in the blank, so I hope you will find it easy to fill out. You can return the form and you can complete the form and return it to City Hall with your utility bill, in the city utility drop box, or in person at City Hall. You can also fill out the form online starting next week. As a thank you for completing this form, all surveys returned to City Hall before May 20th will be entered into a drawing for a $100 gift certificate to Dick's Fresh Market. Surveys returned before Friday, May 27th, will be entered into a drawing for a $50 certificate to Dick's Fresh Market. And all surveys returned before Friday, June 3rd, will be entered in for a $25 gift certificate. Again, your opinions and experiences as an Amery household are very important to the study. And I ask that you take the time to complete this survey. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions?
You got one there?
I have a couple questions. Which month did you say that went out in?
This will go out in April with the utility bill.
April utility bills? And I also have a question about the campground in terms of public use. Is that something that is a fee to use and can I go to the website or?
So it will be a first come, first serve campground. It is a $25 fee.
Is it reservable through the website or how does that get taken?
No reservation we take.
That's supposed to be 40.
Squatters, okay.
No.
Well, okay, so it's not really gonna be monitored by the city or?
It will be by the Public Works and the police departments.
Okay. That's all.
And North End Alderman.
Okay, so the fee is payable to,
There will be a drop box there that you will put the money in, you'll take your permit, and you will fill it out and put it at your campsite, correct?
Correct.
$25 a day.
To start with.
Thank you, Megan. Committee reports. Parks and Rec. Recreation. Rec. Van Gogh?
I only have 16% left here on my battery, but we had a meeting the 28th of March, and we talked about a number of things that I will drag up here in just as quick as I can. The community club is desirous of putting a second phase deck patio on over at the park. It would be just to the east of the band shell, and it will to allow for a space for handicapped access. So you'll be able to put wheelchairs and so on up on the cement, and then they'll have access to the facilities over there also. They're going to do some concrete work, and the city's going to help a little bit with the little dirt moving. Like to have it. They want to have it done fairly soon. I think in time for the June music on the river. So, and then we talked about the campground brochure, the North Twin boat launch and expansion. We had a request for beehive, or at least a inquiry about beehives in the city. And I think what came out of our committee was at this time we do not, aren't interested in pursuing beehives in the city. And part of the reason for that is that, because we're certainly not opposed to pollinators, and we have gone on record as being supporting the monarch butterfly habitat and so on. But the issue of regulating where bees fly and what they do is just about impossible. And we felt like after we talked about it that the regulation would have to be so stringent as to be almost unenforceable and not fun for anybody. So at this point in time, we're not going to make any change to that. If you have a hive in the city, I don't want to hear about it. You know, it's, but we won't be issuing permits or anything like that for anything new, so. And then we had a couple other things, and that was a closed agenda item for finance, but it was brought out, in Parks and Rec. I don't know how you want to approach that.
Well, what did we decide?
We decided to refer it to finance for further
Okay.
consideration, so we can bring it up. It's part of, it's part of the open record here.
Okay.
All right. We also talked about, where the band shell is, the 2 lots to the south of the band shell are currently owned by the Swatter family.
Hold on. I think that was our closed session.
Yep.
But the motion had to be made in open session, so it's part of the record.
That we made a motion to refer to finance?
Yes.
Then was it discussed in open session in finance?
No.
I
So I don't know how to proceed.
Me either. I'm just concerned that the motion was made, but it wasn't dictated in,
It was done in open session.
I think it's supposed to be investigated before it's brought up here.
Well, Darcy's been in contact with
Yes, and we have a
the
letter
owners,
back from
so
him.
maybe we need to,
Well, we gotta open it sometime. I don't know that,
well, but we also need to open it at the appropriate time. I just don't wanna overstep our bounds.
It wasn't in our open records meeting in finance on the 29th.
it's in the minutes of of finance, no,
Finance.
right.
No, that wasn't.
But it is in Parks and Rec.
I think probably, there isn't anything wrong with stating the motion that was made in open session, but, maybe any further elaboration than that.
Well, it didn't go much further than that at this point in time. So, we evaluated the fact that there are 2 lots down there, and the family is desirous of doing something with those, and we approached that, that was given to my committee, and we referred that to finance, and they dealt with it in closed session. So, I would just explain that, because it was a motion made in open session at Parks and Rec, so.
Okay, well, then it won't be discussed anymore
Right.
if it's gone through our closed session until we deal with it.
Right.
right. Okay.
I was a little surprised to see it.
Are we clear on that?
Whatever.
Any questions for Rick?
One last thing that wasn't brought up yet about the campground. The projected opening date of the campground is Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
Hopefully, as long as the weather cooperates. Yep.
But my question, along with this young lady's questions, how are we advertising this? Who knows what about what's going on Memorial Day?
It's,
Well, Megan's been working on that pretty extensively in regards to websites, brochures, and anywhere else.
it's in here.
Like we discussed at the shop, the biggest advertisement's gonna be word of mouth, but we are getting it out there. It's also been discussed with the DOT about putting proper signage on Highway 46. So we can at least direct people to it, in regards to their role.
So, my question would be, if someone wants to reserve a site, what do? Go park their car on it and
If there's
it's
an
taken,
available
and is
site.
there a cap of how long you can be there? Is there you're out by 11 o'clock the next day? Is
All the
it-
rules are discussed and put on the website, so that it has its own page that may or may not be live yet. And there is a, well, we want to have it complete and everything.
Sure, but all these questions are.
Right,
Yeah.
so, and there's also a brochure that's almost ready to go as well, that has all of the questions as well. You can also find it, and I believe everything is listed on travelwisconsin.com. And then there are 9 different websites that I found that we can list them on as well. So all of the rules, they are in place, and if you want to come afterwards, I can show you the webpage.
Okay.
And I think the intent with this was that it be a soft opening, if you will, not a, because obviously everything there is brand new, including the campers and the method of taking the money, and I'm not at all afraid to say there'll probably be some changes in the first month or whatever that it operates, but we want to at least get the people looking at it and find out, and my thought process is probably by July we may have something that looks different than it does now, but at least we don't want to have 35 campers sitting on Oak Street waiting to get into the campground
That's not gonna happen.
So like I said, a soft opening, and we'll see how it goes.
I mean, I know that there's people asking about it because it's in the visitor guide.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just not much information out there about it, so.
I bet at the May meeting, we'll be able to tell you a lot more about it. Right, Chance? With pictures and everything. Okay, all right. Anything else from Public Parks and Rec? Public Works, Julie?
Public Works met on March 29th. Megan Will covered as much as she could share with us about the meeting with the Department of Transportation in regard to a number of things going on in the community. So I won't add to that. More will be coming up later. Also talked about the downtown parking lot update, and the contracts have been sent out, and a pre-construction meeting will be soon. It's about a 45-day project for that. The Flag Park lift station was brought up, and there was a motion to reaffirm to solicit proposals from multiple engineering firms for the Flagpole Park lift station. And so that has been a recommendation. And then we spent some time with Megan going over the capital improvement plan that focuses on the public works projects and the utilities. Anything else, Tim, to add? Just an overview of what we talked about. Any questions?
I have something to add. So in regards to where you can find information on the North Park Campground, so as it is, you can go to amerywisconsin.org, and the website is already live. And again, you can also find stuff at travelwisconsin.org, and then we've also said you can call City Hall, so there's a lot of information. Thank you for bringing that stuff.
Okay. Julie, do you want to do Planning Commission also?
Okay. Let me find it here.
Yeah, it's down there.
Planning Commission met March 31st. Under new business, revision to the city fence zoning ordinance. Consensus was to, well, we talked about various kinds of fences. Fences under being no closer than 3 feet to the property line and so forth. Anyway, decided to go with the fences that you can buy pre-fence or buy that are already made. They're in 4-foot height, and so the city ordinance, what, 5?
6.
Okay, it says 4 feet.
No,
Well, I
it's
think
fine.
that's what the rule is now, is 4, and they only sell 6-foot panels,
Right.
and that's why they were changing it to 6, really.
Yep.
didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay,
But that's not what it says here.
no. I'll read you, the motion that was made and approved was to change the section 13-1-142 of fences to read, under location of fence, no closer than 3 feet, and to strike reference to the lake and riverside, and under height of fence for residential zoned property changed 3 feet in height to 4 feet in height. Under fence permit required, strike the section referring to a fence permit and $5 fee, and insert the requirement for a zoning and building permit. That was the recommendation that was approved.
I know Darcy mentioned something, if you have a dog, you could get 6-foot fence. They're gonna try to make it 6 foot so that people won't have to chop it off and buy in a section. So I know that was talked about at,
Well, if we're gonna vote on it tonight, we'll change it to 6 feet tonight.
It's actually not on the agenda to make any ordinance changes to
Yeah.
that tonight. The planning commission made the recommendation and the ordinance was going to be developed and
Okay.
at that time brought to the city council.
Okay, so you probably should change it to 6 feet.
Okay.
and the other one, when you said about the buildings, that's when you do next. I know Darcy made some remarks to that one too. But I think we'll see what they have on there again.
The what?
He advised when they were discussing, because a lot of people are getting storage sheds, and there were some recommendations of having, if it's 100 square foot, there wouldn't be no permit fee, otherwise it'd go to zoning planning.
Right.
Is that it, Julie?
And the
Also,
second one?
under there, we had talked about accessory vehicle storage. Is that, well, that's what you just mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then talked about the webinars that the UW Extension is going to be having available for Planning Commission, City Council members, city staff. Okay, that's about
Okay.
it.
Thank
So then these will all go then to be an ordinance and then be on the agenda item for May's meeting then?
The planning commission really did not delve into the accessory building section of the ordinance. There was just preliminary discussion held and a basic review with them to address it in depth at their next meeting. The fence is something they did go into. There was quite a bit of discussion on that. Some differences in opinions amongst the commission members regarding that, but that is the recommendation they came out with. Which of course, at the time that comes to city council, the city council certainly can review that and make any amendments or changes as they desire.
Okay. Thank you. Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee met on March 29th. Rick Davis was not there. Rick Van Blarkum was via speakerphone for that particular meeting. We had a lot of items, but a lot of them aren't taking action, but I'll go through them individually here. The first one we had was the builder inspector contract. And we put in the past, it's usually been extended for 1 year. We do have some public works employees that might be interested in doing that, but we're having some difficulties in finding the training and certifications needed. Just on the record, Van Blarkum did want to note that he was opposing if we had an employee taking on those duties and creating a position, that there might be some other problems with other things with the various city officials. So we just made a motion to extend our current contract with Craig Moriak for 1 more year, our builder inspector. We talked briefly on the airboat project update. Agreements have come back from the different townships. The city will approve, it's on our agenda here, to get the copies back to the towns so the airboat can be ordered in October. Next, another agenda item, we talked about the creation of TIF District 8. We have a representative from Baird that will be here to explain a little bit further some of the timelines and how the mapping of the new industrial area, where this will be in the processes that will take, and the various type of meetings and public hearings that will be held and planning commission and to the council. And this process will be explained a little bit later. We made a motion to have the city council proceed with the contract to work with Baird would be a $10,000 contract to get this established, this TIF district, and the cost would be. In that, also, on the same phone conference, we talked about debt consolidation and refinancing, also utilizing the same company, Baird. A couple different scenarios we talked about on how to refinance various city funds that we have. And the savings for these funds and refinancing would be somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000 annually. So we put what items would be on there, what we would fund. And this is something else that was going through, we think it'd be a good idea, cost savings to the city by this funding. And I think there's that's a later agenda item also on here about the refinancing and restructuring. The Public Works Department, another topic came up with floor mats and uniforms. In the past, they had contracted with G&K for uniform and rug services. By that contract not renewing it, the city is saving approximately $27,000 a year by buying our own rugs and uniforms versus contracting with this company. So they'll be using Tony at Downtown Threads is working with them to work on the uniforms, and then the city administrator is looking at on other mats online. So it's a cost savings, again, of $27,000 to the city doing this. The next agenda item we had on there was the cable franchise agreement and administration. Some of the contract is not clear in this agreement. We're trying to work to find out some of the questions that got brought up were they were taping games outside of the district when our Amery wasn't involved in the game, and we were being billed for that. So we have a couple questions. What finance would have a representative from the cable company come and attend one of our finance committee meetings so we can clarify any questions between that franchise agreement with Amery and try to get those all straightened out. The next item we talked about was the Polk County Resolution 8/2016 concerning the payment of delinquent special assessments and special charges. And Fran related to us a little bit. It's how Polk County has passed a resolution changing how they settle with municipalities for delinquent utilities, special assessments, and special charges. They will now settle once in August for only what is collected. So they're asking, for an agreement between the city and the county, or they will not settle with us. So in other words, I don't know, Fran, if you want to explain anything else, what that means to us as a city.
Okay, sure. It actually is going to mean quite a bit. There are counties in that area, specifically St. Croix County is the first one that comes to mind, where if they do not collect the taxes are delinquent, or any of the delinquent utilities, charges, or special assessments are delinquent, they do not settle with you or make your municipality whole. You only get paid if they get paid. Here in Polk County, we are very fortunate that the county settles in full with the city, whether the actual taxes, specials, and utilities have been collected or not. They settle with us, then the county goes after collecting those, and they are the ones that are really kind of fronting that settlement and waiting to be made whole. What Polk County has done is they have passed a resolution saying rather than settling with the city in January, February, and August for delinquent utilities, special assessments, and charges for each one of those, they now will settle with us once on the August tax settlement, and that settlement will be only for what they have managed to collect, and we will not be made whole if the things have not, those charges and monies have not been collected. What this is going to mean is that the city will have to take a very serious look at being much more aggressive on collecting any delinquent utilities, charges or assessments because we will no longer get made whole for that if it's not collected up front.
Thank you, Fran. Another topic that we had was liquor licenses as relating to economic development. Currently, we do not have any liquor license available, but due to the closure of Country Hearth, it's anticipated one might become available as theirs does expire. There has been a discussion on saving the license. One of the economic development was for possibly potential hotel. But we have learned there's other provisions in the state statutes that allow a hotel, if they're large enough, to qualify for that license without having to use one of the licenses we currently have. Dan Drexler of the ADC did advise they were not interested in needing to have this license if one becomes available for that hotel. Peter Henry of the Hungry Turtle is very interested in the Class B combo license, and he was at our meeting when one comes available. And there was discussion on if this license does become available, it would then become a reserve license, which is subject to the $10,000 fee, a regular license. And Fran, do you want to explain that so people understand why?
Sure. There's special provisions in state statute to supplement the statute dictated quota in Class B liquor licenses for municipality. Back in 1997, there was legislation passed that had rather a complicated formula to see if your community could get additional licenses. The city of Amery at that time, it is my understanding, gained one Class B license, which was applied for and granted to the Village Pizzeria. Also part of the provisions in statute is that no reserve license can be granted unless all of the regular Class B licenses are already taken. The reserve licenses have a special fee of $10,000. And then in addition to that, they also pay the regular liquor licensing cost of $500 for liquor and $100 for beer. There has been some interest in possibly with one regular licensing becoming available, the clarification of what's actually becoming available, the reserve or the regular license. And I have done some consulting with the ATF agent for this region of the state from Department of Revenue about that. He initially gave me one opinion and came back and clarified it for me again later. So it's a little tricky. What would need to happen is when the Village Pizzeria applies for their license, they would have to state that they're applying for a regular license, not the reserve, renewal of the reserve they already hold. At that time, that would make the reserve license become available and subject to be applied for, and the $10,000 fee would again come into play. The $10,000 fee can be, well, it's not just that it can be by statute, it has to be assessed to any new holder of that license. So that's something that I'm sure that there'll be more discussion about at another time.
Fran, is there any penalty or anything? You said if they hold a reserve license, they have to write on the application they want a regular license. Is there any penalty for them not applying for a regular license, or is there any advantage to?
As far as what rights to alcohol service, the two licenses have the identical provisions about what you can sell or not sell and how the alcohol is governed. It actually was the owner of the Village Pizzeria, who has a business in another community, who was familiar with this process because he had seen it done in another community, and that's kind of what started the dialogue and the research of finding out a little bit more about this. It certainly should be noted that because a license is available does not mean that the city has to issue a license. No one is entitled to a license by virtue of the fact that they apply for one. It is a privilege subject to approval by the city council. Having said that, if an establishment holds a license and the city does not want to renew it, they do have to be prepared to legally defend why they would not renew it. So it's a given that if someone has a license, they're going to get it renewed unless something serious happens. They have some types of violations or things of that nature.
Yeah. And the other thing brought up was if the other business doesn't reopen under the same license, then you can't have a reserve if you have an open regular license. That's why the Village Pizzeria would have to go to the open license, is that understand?
Yes.
So that,
Yeah, you can't issue a reserve license until all of your regular licenses are gone. And to
So-
make that reserve become available, the Village Pizzeria, upon application, would say, and I sure would want this in writing, that their application is for the regular license and not the reserve.
and they would have that first choice because they have the reserve right now.
They got the reserve right
So,
now.
that-
Fran, the initial cost for the regular license, I was under the impression it was 10,000 also, but that's not the
No,
case.
no, a regular license, the only alcohol license that has a $10,000 fee attached is a reserve license.
And what is the regular
The
license?
regular
initial
license, Class B liquor is only issued in combination with Class B beer, $500 liquor, $100 beer, for a total of $600.
cost? 600 initial and then 500 renewal?
Nope, it's the same, a regular license costs the same year after year after year.
Okay.
Also, with the reserve license, when that's issued, they also have to go pay the regular price on top of it. So it's actually gonna cost them $10,600.
Okay, any questions on that?
Very
Thank you.
complicated.
Thank you for clarifying that, but, so if you're wondering why that comes about, then at the very end of the meeting, at 6:25, under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, sub 1, sub E, we did go into closed session to deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, investing of public funds, or contract other specific business, whatever competitive or bargaining reasons required a closed session. This pertained to acquisition of property for park purpose. We came out of that closed session with no motions. In open session, there was no motions. We just adjourned.
Questions for Chris?
Yeah.
Thank you for leading us through
Well,
all that. Oh, Dave?
I have a question or a comment, not only from the finance report, but from several other reports that have occurred this afternoon. A number of questions have occurred, and a number of questions certainly will be asked by our TV viewers and by our newspaper and radio reports. I get calls weekly about several of these issues, and I think the only thing that I want to say at this point is nothing is going to happen until it is passed by the city council. So you can hear all of these stories that are from the agents that I just mentioned, plus the Chet's and the family restaurant and wherever else coffee shops go, and you can talk and talk and talk about them, but nothing's going to happen until the city council okays it or denies it. So it's important that people ask questions about these things, but it's also important for people to recognize that this is all just discussions. And lots of things go on that will be presented at the right time, but nothing's going to happen until we vote on it.
Amen.
Thank you, David. And now it's time for new business, and we get to vote. The first thing on the agenda is the airport agreement with the town of Alden, Blackbrook, and Lincoln. I have signed them. Darcy has signed them. Dale, do you want to say anything more about these agreements?
I don't have a lot to say about it. It was something that came out of finance committee. They wanted to take it to the school board, not school board, take it to the town boards for a memorandum of agreement, I guess it is. And I am glad to see that they're in. That means the towns are supportive of the project, and we're gonna figure out the financing and go forward with it, so.
So we need a motion to accept the Air Board agreements with the town of Alden, Blackbrook, and Lincoln.
So,
I have some questions first. How solid are we on this 97,380 figure?
It's good for another 7 days.
Okay, what happens after 7 days?
We're at their discretion as far as, you know, some say 10% increase, some say.
And
The other thing I'd like to inform the board, and Darcy was gonna check on this for me, but I don't know if he was able to meet with them. We do have a gift out there that had some time frame to it. There's a $5,000 gift from the WAPO Association that has a sunset date on it. And I asked Darcy to check into whether or not they would extend that. So not only are we open to the renegotiating of the quote I got, but it's up to the pleasure of the WAPO Association whether or not to continue their gift past, I believe it was.
Because you're not gonna order the boat until like August or something, correct?
Well, we need 50% down to order the boat. That locks in that quote. It's about a 3 to 4 month production time on it. So we'd like to be able to get the boat as soon as we can in 2017. I've been in discussion with some of the departments that have them, and they said, you know, you better be careful because you should always train on the water first before you get on the ice and on uneven things. That would put us getting delivery of the boat while there's ice out, and obviously if we have it, we're going to use it. So it's not the optimal for my training schedule, but it is what it is, so.
But you see my concern, if your quote's up in 7 days, but you're not gonna be ordering it for another 4 months, there's a lot of unknowns in there yet.
Well, and
How are we gonna cover those
I don't
unknowns?
know if you want me to discuss it here, but I did anticipate that issue, and what we're really doing is, we asked the towns for half of the boat as projected, and I believe we told the towns 97,000. So their memorandum states that they will put up half of it this year. Since then, we actually negotiated a lower price than 97, it was down to 92.
Okay.
That's the quote I have right now, 92.5. Plus the gifts, you know, we were actually collecting, if the town's memorandum state that, about 68% of the boat cost if we go with the lower quote right now. And I suggested that we might look into financing from July, whenever we take deliveries when the other 50% is due, so it might be as late as October, finance the other 38,000 for 4 months might be cheaper than losing the almost $18,000 in finance.
You know, our finance committee also talked about, we're not gonna be held hostage by that company. They're not the only company that makes that boat. And we fully expect Darcy to help. If we have to renegotiate, we will, and we will bid that thing out to another company.
And especially if they come back with a 10% increase, that's
Yeah.
$10,000. Now we're up over 100,000. Yeah. So as long as we're prepared to deal with those issues that are gonna be,
And
that may
I
come
brought
up.
her up, you know, and I guess we didn't take any action on short term. So we went back to the original timetable of 2017.
Make a motion to approve the Amery airboat agreement with the towns of Alden, Lincoln, and Blackbrook as drafted.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the airboat agreement. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. TIF 8 creation agreement with Robert W. Baird and Company.
Sure, I'll start out by giving a little background by this. First of all, I want to introduce Justin Fisher from Robert Baird, who are municipal financial consultants and facilitators. I believe this came out of a conversation that Darcy had at a conference with Baird regarding the city's intention to form TID number 8 after the purchase of the new industrial park property from Ron Anderson. Justin has a handout that he's going to give all of you that will explain this process a little bit better. I want to mention that it is worth noting that Baird had a little bit of a fresher approach on some of the issues related to formation of the TID than what we had heard from other consultants that the city had spoke to. Namely that the money that the city has already spent to acquire the property would still be a TIF eligible and recoverable expense rather than it being too late for that is something that we can recover certainly through that work. So I will let Justin talk about it.
Yeah, and as Fran said, well, I guess first off, good evening and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. The handout that I presented to you is the refinancing. The TID creation, I'll just kind of walk through with you guys. So the TID creation is really a 2 to 3 month process. Over the next 2 weeks, we're going to be meeting with Fran, Megan, and Darcy to really go through the project plan and put that together. So that's going to be requiring the TID boundaries, the location, what type of TID district it's going to be. And based on that will allow us to come up with a project plan that will be then presented to council. There's going to be a joint review board that's going to be formed for this TID. And then really what we're going to have to do is do an analysis to say, in order to create a TID, there has to be a but-for test. And that really is, would the development occur without the TID or does it need the TID? And that's kind of the analysis that we're going to go through to say, is there an incentive for the developer to develop more by creating this TID? So that's kind of the background of what we're going to go through when we do this process. And so, like I said, that's going to be a 2 to 3 month process. And there's going to be multiple meetings throughout the way. We can send you a timeline, just a basic timeline. And this is really based on the Department of Revenue. They put out a sample that says, here's kind of the meetings that you need to go through. And that's really what we use for you guys. So that's what we follow when we go throughout this process. So the next item, as Fran mentioned, is the refinancing. So that's what you have in front of you, that's the packet. So if you flip to the first page.
Excuse me, Justin, do we need to make a motion to?
Yeah, I don't know if the city council wants to address individually or collectively, but we do need some action and a motion requiring approving the agreement for them to go ahead and create the TID in that contract.
I'll make a motion that we proceed forward with the TID agreement with Robert Baird.
No, second.
Motion made and seconded to go ahead with the agreement with Robert Baird Company. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now, that's debt consolidation and refinancing.
Yes, and so that's the packet that you have in front of you. So if you flip to the first page, this is a graph that we like to show. We show this to Darcy and Fran, so they know we like to show this, but it really gives a good visual to show how low interest rates are in the municipal world. So if you look at that red line, that's the 10-year index municipal bond rate. And really, this issue that we're going to be talking about is right in that 10-year range. So that's kind of the line to be looking at. And as you can see, if you go from the left side, that's 30 years ago. If you go to the right, that's today. Basically, rates have been dropping almost every year, especially the last 5 years, 7 years. They're at significant low rates, historically, almost the lowest they've ever been. So right now is the perfect time to get in the market and refinance any debt that you can possibly do. And that's what sparked the conversation, is we were evaluating the city's debt and saw some opportunities out there.
So we're at about 2%,
And
our current rate.
if you're looking at this, that's correct. And this is really based on a AAA municipal entity. And so that means that that's the highest grade you can get. The city, when we did a preliminary analysis, they're not going to be a AAA. There's only a couple AAAs in the whole state. So this is more of just an index to look at. As we go forward, we're going to do a credit analysis for the city because we're going to go for a bond rating through Moody's. And so that whole process, that will tell us what the city's going to be rated, because they haven't been rated before. So if you flip to the second page, this gives a basic summary of what we're going to do with this refinancing. So this is going to be a general obligation refunding bonds, and the amount is going to be roughly $3,030,000. I mean, this is going to be going up or going down based on what loans we include, how the bonds are going to be priced on the day we go to price them. So this is, right now, the timeline that I'll show in a couple minutes here is that it takes about a month to get through this whole process of putting together an official statement which goes out to investors. It's basically like a stock prospectus that you would get. You know, it tells everything about the city so investors are informed on what they're going to be buying. So that takes, roughly about a month, along with going through the whole Moody's rating process. So we're working with Fran already on that process to get information so our analysts at Baird can start putting together this prospectus, because it's about 30 to 50 pages of just information about the district, or about the city. So going back to this, the structure is going to be basically what you currently have on your 2008 issue. It's going to be maturing on October 1st of 2016 through October 1st of 2027, with a final maturity in April 1st of 2028. So basically, I'll show you in a second, it's keeping up with the same structure of this 2008 issue. And that's really what sparked this whole conversation. So the first interest is going to be October 1st of 2016, with this issue being callable, meaning it can be prepaid on October 1st of 2025. As you can see, all the purposes that we're going to be refunding, we first started out by seeing this 2008 issue that had interest rates in that 4 to 4.20%. So that's what sparked to say, there's definitely some savings here that we can present to the city. And then when we started getting deeper into the city's financials, we saw that there were some loans out there that they had outstanding in their general obligation debt. And we said, the incremental cost to include these loans is not very much. So let's see how if we can include these right now and basically consolidate and get everything at a lower interest rate. And so that's what we did. So if you can see at lower, the interest rate right now, the estimated interest rate is 2.10%. So a very good interest rate, and hopefully that only improves. I feel like we're being a little conservative on this interest rate, but we'll know more once we get the Moody's rating from them. The estimated gross savings that you'll see on your budget is basically $178,791, and that's spread out over a number of years. So that's not all going to be up front, and that's why there's that present value savings of $172,000, or 5.773% of refunded debt service. So the next 2 pages really give you a detailed analysis of what's going on here. So on the far left, you can see that 2008 issue, and everything that's shaded in yellow, that can be prepaid. So we looked at that and said, you can refinance that 80,000 all the way to that 160 into a new bond issue at a 2.0% or 2.1%. What does that get us? And then we went and said, okay, let's add in all these other loans, and where do we end up? Does that produce more savings or less savings? And let's look at it on a per purpose basis. So if you go to the next page, this is where it tells the whole story. So on page 5, you can see on the far right, that's going to be your savings, your annual savings per year. And really, what I want to point out is that you're going to see some negatives in there, in that like 7 to 9 year range or whatever it is. That's because there's a 2012 issue, that's a water purpose loan. That has a balloon payment in 2022. And so what we did is we extended that balloon payment. Balloon payment is when you have a larger amount due than your other payments. So if you look on the page 4, you can see that you have roughly $40,000 in principal payments, and then it jumps up to $282,000. That's what a balloon payment looks like. So we said, let's basically extend it so you're keeping up with the same total debt service as you were. So you don't end up having a balloon payment, you don't end up having a large payment due. So that's why you have negative savings in those 1 years, and right before it, you see a large savings. But overall, it's basically roughly about $15,000 per year is what we're estimating if you were to take the total divided by how many years we're doing this. And then at the bottom, you'll see that box. That really shows the full scope of what we're doing here and how we did the analysis. This says that we looked at each purpose and said, how much savings does each one of these loans give us? And that's how we did the analysis. Each one of these is producing savings by refinancing, and that's why we included it. So the last page really gives a tentative timeline. So we already met with Finance Committee to discuss this option with them, and they moved forward to go with this scenario of including the bank loans in it. And so really what we need from you tonight is an adoption of the resolution that's in your packets to move forward with going forward and refinancing when we're ready to. And that basically means that, once we have the documents lined up from the official statement, we have the rating in place, we go out to investors, we get feedback, then we can say, is the market good right now? Let's price. Or if is the market bad, let's not price and wait. Let's wait for the right day. Let's not force a day to go out to the market. So that's what we're needing from you guys tonight. And then we're expecting to price this sometime in May. That'd be the goal. That's about the earliest we could do it is, right now we're looking at mid-May. That'd be the earliest. And then hopefully we can close this bond by June 1st. That'd be the goal.
If the market takes a burp in May for some reason, shoots up for 2 weeks, can we push that close date back?
Yes.
To July 1st?
And that's the beauty of doing this parameters resolution. We, if rates go crazy and, something happens in the world, we can always postpone this.
Okay.
We can
We're
delay
not
it.
locked in.
But,
to that.
say rates are looking good, I call up Darcy and Fran and I say, rates are looking good, we're ready to go, investors are eager to buy this, let's get out there.
Okay. And also, from the city standpoint, by doing this refinance, if we do have something else come up, dump truck needs to be replaced, emergent, or water department, this would also allow us to give us a little bit more bond power because the city's gonna keep operating throughout this time, so it's gonna make us a little bit more easy to flow money.
Yes, you are gonna see that budget savings, so that will allow for some new projects.
I think too, it's worth just throwing out there, as long as Tim brought this up, is if you look at just the savings with debt service with doing this bond, and you add to that what we're saving with a contract with G&K, that's a lot of money. It's about $35,000 a year. So it's significant.
So C was just getting information, right? So D then is what we need to vote on, the debt refining resolution.
I think too, Justin, do they also need to approve the agreement with Baird for these services? And then separate from that, then the bond resolution?
Or did we?
Yeah, didn't we just do that?
That was for the TIF.
That was
That was the tip,
Formation of the
yeah, I guess you're right, we didn't.
Okay.
There's two agreements. One is formation of the TID, and the other is for the bond and debt consolidation issue. They're two separate documents.
Okay, so we need to vote on C, correct?
Which is
No.
there.
Yes.
We have
Yes.
to, we want to hire Baird first,
There we go.
don't you think?
Move to hire Robert W. Baird and Company to represent us in this bond sale.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to go with Robert W. Baird and Company. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, item D, the resolution 2016-02, authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $3,500,000 general obligation refunding bonds.
Where does that 3 million figure come from?
So on that.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, the third
I
page.
found it now. I thought it was a lower number. Make a motion to approve resolution 2016-02, authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed 3.5 million general obligation refunding bonds.
Second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any more discussion?
I have a question.
Question?
Of Rick, I value his opinion. Do you think this is a good deal?
I do think it's a good idea, and we have done this before since I've been on the city council, and it was good for us back then, and we saved a lot of money with the lower interest rates. This is almost $15,000 to $17,000 a year of cash flow savings, so it's a good idea, Dave.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did it before, I think, with Baird. I'm pretty sure, didn't we, Julie?
Mhm. We've done this in the past.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So.
More discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you
My
very much.
information's on here. if any of you have any
Okay,
questions.
thank you, Justin. I bet we'll be seeing more of you. On to item E, Class B beer and liquor combination license for the Alibi Bar LLC. It's in the packet.
Thank you.
Fran, do we need to know anything about that license?
The only thing is that, just like what we've recently seen at Freedom and Holiday, is that there's a little bit of restructuring within their corporation, where they may change from one type of corporation to another. And that requires the change in the name of the liquor license to their new corporation. In this situation, the Alibi Bar has changed to an LLC from a C Corp, which is what they were before.
Okay. So do I have a motion to accept that change?
Go for it, Kristen.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And, what else was there? There's too much on here. I'm trying to go back to my agenda. I lost it.
It's just got one, right?
Okay.
It's 45 pages. That's
Operator's
What,
license?
operator's license, okay.
server operating license F.
Move to approve Jody Roll for an operator's license.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Everything's, okay. All in favor of the operator's license?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Before we adjourn, the organizational meeting will be April 19th, 2016, at 5 o'clock here in council chambers. Now, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.